Hi everyone, welcome to FPL FIX. My name's James and I'm here with Patrick to give you the weekly fix. This week we're dissecting Game Week 22, where Palmer was painful, Salah was shocking and Wood was wondrous. We'll be looking at all the top performers from the previous game week, analysing the transfer trends and looking at who to target for the next few game weeks. How did you get on last week, Patrick?
Hi everyone. For Game Week 22 I got 49 points, which means I beat the average by a massive 3 points. This allowed me to have a green arrow. 2 defenders returned for me. Gvardiol got me 6 points, and I was hoping that he would score more points because Man City scored 6 goals. And I was kind of annoyed that he didn't even get an assist, given that he's an extremely attacking defender. Kirkes got me 7 points, courtesy of scoring against Newcastle. However, he did get a yellow card, which dented his overall return. Only one midfielder scored any decent points for me. Bruno got me 8 points. I went with 3 strikers, but only the New Zealand legend Chris Wood actually returned. He got me 12 points. The rest of my team was disappointing. Palmer got me 2 points, and my hero from last week, Ahmad, scored the same. Chelsea scored 3 goals. Palmer somehow decided it wasn't a good idea to get involved. I chose to captain Salah, hoping that he would absolutely smash Brentford. Instead, he decided that he would just be a passenger in that game. He got me 6 points. How did you do last week?
Thanks, Patrick. My team did okay, but mostly only because I finally got the captaincy decision right. I transferred Haaland to Wood, which was a bit risky, but I put the armband on Wood and it worked out great. He was the 5th highest captain player of the game week, with Palmer, Salah, Haaland and Isak all being captained by over 1 million managers. Wood came out on top with 12 points, and Haaland's 6-pointer was the only other return amongst those captaincy picks. Other than that, my team was quite mid actually. Castagne and Munoz returned with clean sheets, but my entire midfield blanked along with Pedro and Isak, with the latter being a surprise but having been completely closed out of the game by Bournemouth. Let's discuss the top point scoring players in each position from last week. Okay, so on screen we can see the top scoring goalkeepers and defenders from last week. We had Alisson at the top with 9 points. Ederson had 7 points. Leno had 7 points and Dean Henderson had 6 points. Any of those goalkeepers of any interest to you?
At the moment, given the fact that Liverpool have a double game week coming up, the only person I'm thinking about is Alisson. 5.5, I'm really running low on funds, but if other managers have the funds available, I would advise they get Alisson. What do you think?
I think Alisson is a great pick ahead of the double game week. They've got Ipswich at home this week, followed by the double and Wolves at home after that. So I think there is great points potential for Alisson. Ederson I don't think is an option, the way that Ortega and Ederson are being rotated at the moment by Pep. Leno's been great, but Fulham don't have the best fixture on at the moment, and Henderson's been really good as well, part of a really strong Crystal Palace defence. The only thing I would say about that Crystal Palace defence is that they have now lost Trevor Chalobah, who we're going to speak about next, and that might actually have a big impact on their defensive line. Moving on to the top scoring defenders from last week, Trent was top of the list with 11 points. Cucurella with 9 points was second, and then Chalobah, Guehi and Robinson all came next with 8-point performances. Any of those pique your interest?
Trent. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am doing everything I can to free up money to get Trent. If you have the money, please get him. I'm thinking about selling even premium midfielders in order to get him. The other player that interests me is Guehi, but as mentioned previously, losing Chalobah might make me think otherwise. I don't know if he's still a good pick, but Robinson is also just being clutch and relatively priced as well. Is there anyone else that you think we should talk about in this list?
Well, I completely agree with you with Trent. With the next 4 fixtures, including the double game week, it's a no-brainer to do everything you can to get Trent into your team. I've already made the move and expecting good things from the next few matches. The only one that really piques my interest there is Chalobah. I think getting a Chelsea defender at 4.4 million, if he can start for Chelsea, game in, game out, he's been a really great asset for Crystal Palace, been really attacking this season, and he has shown it before with Chelsea in the Premier League. Last season he scored a few goals, and yeah, he'd be the person that I'd be interested in most from that list other than Trent at 4.4 million.
Do you actually think Chalobah starts though?
Well, he's been back for one game and he started that one game, so I guess only time will tell. But if he does turn out to be a starting Chelsea defender at 4.4 million, I think he could be a great asset.
Okay, one more thing before we move on. How unfair is it? No, let me just rephrase that, because you actually disagree with this. I know you do. I think Trent is just too expensive. He should be cheaper. But you think that he actually should be priced higher?
Only fractionally, only because I made my move early this week and Foden was one of the top transfers in. He's gone up in price, as has Gakpo, as has Chris Wood. The only one who really hasn't, who's been among the top transfers this week, is Trent. Even Alisson has gone up in price, so I do think Trent should be 7.3 million. But that being said, it is a lot of money to pay for a defender.
Now let's look at the top performing midfielders and strikers. Top of the list is Kluivert with 22 points, followed by Foden on 19 points, Kovacic on 13 points, De Bruyne, Doku, Menta and Matoma all on 12 points. Any of those interest you? Anything you would like to say about them?
Well, Kluivert scored 22 points and he's actually the first player this season to score over 20 points twice. He got a 20-pointer earlier on in the season with a hat-trick of penalties against Wolves, I believe it was, and he got bonus points in that match. So that's quite an interesting record, but I don't think Bournemouth have the greatest fixtures over the next few weeks. I think game week 25 might be a really interesting time to look at Kluivert, based on Bournemouth's fixtures, but it's still a few game weeks away and we need to focus on the double up before it gets to that point. Foden has been in great form and anyone that picked him up ahead of those last four fixtures has been in dreamland. Kovacic, De Bruyne and Doku, I think they are all beneficial of a freak performance against Ipswich. I know Man City have been getting better in the Premier League, but really we can't expect these type of performances from them week in, week out. Minter and Matoma both did really well. Unfortunately for me, João Pedro wasn't involved, but Minter and Matoma assisted each other for nice 12-pointers. Not much more else to say on that.
Nothing really else to add apart from Foden. I like him as a player, but to be completely honest, Man City's fixtures aren't really friendly, and most people who have Man City assets brought him in for the last week and the previous week fixtures. Let's look at the top performing strikers. We've got Mateta with 13 points, Wood with 12 points, Nunes with 11 points, and Watkins with 8 points. Nunes and Mateta are the ones I'm really interested in, especially Nunes, because if you don't have Liverpool assets, I think it's someone you should be looking at, but minutes are not really guaranteed. What do you think?
I think Nunes is an interesting one. He did obviously get an 11-point return in the previous fixture, but that was coming off the bench late and scoring 2 goals against Brentford. I think based on the fact that he's started and played the majority of the game, if not all the game, in the Champions League, and Gakpo was rested for the full 90 minutes, I can't see Nunes playing against Ipswich unless, again, he's brought on at the latter stages of the game. I don't think that he's going to get enough minutes over the next 4 fixtures, including that double, to be worth considering. And I think if you are looking for a Liverpool striker, it should be Gakpo during this time. Mateta has been great. He's returned in his last 3 games, and both he and Crystal Palace have looked great. The fixtures are still okay, and he's one to consider if you do already own the double game week players that you're looking to have. Okay, so moving on from game week 22, let's discuss the most transferred players in for game week 23 so far. Starting with the players who are most transferred out, we can see Saliba and Solanke being shipped out off the back of their recent injuries, and most of these will actually be contributing to the Trent and Gakpo transfers in. Jackson and Jimenez have been getting good minutes lately, but not producing. Palmer's an interesting one. Why do you think he's being sold?
I genuinely believe that most managers are probably selling him in order to bring in more Liverpool assets. However, I really don't like the idea of spending the weekend hoping that Palmer blanks.
Looking at the players who have been transferred in this week, they can be split into two main categories. In my opinion, Kluivert and Foden are mostly knee-jerk transfers, and they don't really have the fixtures to continue their form. Wood, Trent and Gakpo are all solid picks. Liverpool assets are essential ahead of the double, and Chris Wood's consistency this season makes him almost fixture-proof at this point. What do you think?
Only two things to add really. Wood being the second most transferred in player is a bit surprising for me. Also no Everton assets. Given the fact they also have a double game week coming up, it's a little bit surprising. Okay, let's see if any of these assets make it into our game week 23 teams.
Okay, I've got my team on screen and I'm feeling quite positive ahead of the game week. I'm starting Raya away to Wolves in goal. My defence looks okay, with all three having home fixtures. I expect good points from my midfield with Gordon, Rodgers and Salah. And I'm hopeful that Palmer can get something at the Etihad to punish those selling him. Isak has a great fixture, and I'm hoping João Pedro and Chris Wood can unlock the tough defences of Everton and Bournemouth respectively. Tough captaincy choice this week between Isak and Salah, both with great fixtures, but I'm thinking of sticking with Salah following Ipswich's demolition by Man City in their last fixture. What's your plans for this week?
So I'm still procrastinating about my team. Because on one hand, I need to bring in players to have a double game week coming up. I also need to start making moves in order to have funds available for the assistant managership. At the moment, I'm thinking of bringing in India from Everton for Raul Jimenez. Funds are very tight at the moment, and I'm struggling to find ways to bring in Liverpool assets. I might have to sell one of my premium midfielders, maybe sell Bruno in order to free up some money. For captaincy, I have three options. Isak against a weak Southampton defence, which conceded 3 goals, or Salah against Ipswich. If I'm being completely honest though, I believe when he gets closer to deadline, Wood will most likely be my captain. At this moment, I believe he's the most clutch player in the Premier League.
Are you seriously considering captaining Wood against Bournemouth away after watching what Bournemouth did to Isak in their last fixture?
Great question. However, I still believe in the New Zealander, I really do. I think he can score against any defence in the Premier League at this moment. Yes, you maybe could say Salah, but I've lost all hope in that guy at the moment.
Okay, so let's move on and have a last look at the players and teams to target for the next few fixtures. Okay, and moving on to the final section of the video, we've got the teams and players to target for the next few fixtures. So we've got Liverpool and Everton at the top of the list, and they're there due to having the additional fixture with the double game week. And Aston Villa are the other team on the list. They're definitely worth looking at given their great fixtures over the next 3. If you were picking a goalkeeper from these, who would it be, Patrick, and why?
For goalkeepers, if you're not a broke manager like I am, then I would advise you get Alisson, purely for the double, and the Liverpool defence is starting to look solid again. Looking at the defenders, is anyone that you would advise getting, or anyone that stands out for you?
Well, as we could see from my team on the previous graphic, I've already brought Trent in. I think he's a fantastic option and definitely the second best Liverpool player ahead of the double. What's your thoughts, and who would you pick from those defenders?
The only other defender I'm interested in is Ashley Young, purely because I'm a nostalgia merchant, but also I believe he might be the cheapest defender who's got a double game week coming up.
Okay, so just on the back of that comment, there is another player who's not made this list, but it's Mykolenko. He's actually cheaper than Young and Tarkowski, and he will most likely be starting and playing 120 minutes over both fixtures. Looking at the midfielder options, and Salah should be in everyone's team by now. I don't think we need to speak about him too much. I think the other standout pick from this list is Morgan Rodgers. Aston Villa have got 3 really good fixtures coming up, and he's been an attacking threat all season for them. He's still only 5.5 million. He's a cheap option, and I think he's really got a chance of performing well in these matches. Any thoughts?
I've recently sold Rodgers, so for me, I'm steering clear of him. I'm thinking about maybe gambling and going with Luis Diaz at 6.4.
Yeah, he's definitely an option. It's just whether he gets the minutes over the fixtures.
But I think he will be, if you get him in your team, it's most likely he's going to be a differential in whatever league you're involved in.
Okay, and then what about the striker options? Who would you pick from the list? I think you've already gone with Ndai, as you spoke about earlier.
The other option is Gapco, but I don't trust the minutes. But if you've got the funds, we'll advise you get him, really.
Yeah, I think especially considering Gakpo had a full 90-minute rest in the Champions League, I think he's almost guaranteed to get a good amount of minutes in the Ipswich fixture. And realistically, despite the fixture congestion with the FA Cup match against Plymouth and another Champions League match, which will take place between the Bournemouth and the Everton games, I still think that he'll get great minutes in the actual Premier League fixtures, and I think that Núñez will probably get good minutes in the non-Premier League matches in that period. Okay, and that's all for this week's FPL Fix. Thanks for listening and good luck in Game Week 23. Let us know your thoughts on our picks in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more FPL content from us.
Thank you. See you next time.